Clara never imagined that the trip to the exclusive resort would be anything other than relaxing. It was a birthday gift from Adam, her husband, the man who had built an empire with his own two hands. The luxurious resort was known for its pristine beaches, five-star accommodations, and the high-profile guests who frequented it. Adam had insisted she take some time for herself to escape the chaos of their usual world. When the invitation arrived, Clara's heart had skipped a beat. She had never stepped into such a high-end, exclusive world, and she wasn't entirely sure she belonged in it. She had spent most of her life as Adam's wife, supporting him quietly in the background, never really stepping into the spotlight. The thought of an entire weekend in such an opulent place made her feel nervous and out of place. But Adam was insistent. "You deserve this," he had told her gently, the way he always did when he wanted to give her something special. And so, with a mixture of excitement and hesitation, Clara had agreed. She stepped off the private jet that had flown her to the resort with an uneasy smile. The staff at the resort greeted her with the expected politeness, but there was something in their eyes, a flicker of disbelief as they looked her up and down. Her modest clothes, simple and unassuming, felt starkly out of place against the designer attire worn by the other guests. The resort was exclusive, frequented by celebrities and business magnates, people who never worried about fitting in. Clara felt the stares immediately. The staff's polite smiles seemed to freeze when they saw her. She brushed it off, trying to ignore the sensation that she didn't belong, telling herself she was just overthinking it. At the reception desk, things took a sharp turn. The woman behind the counter, a perfectly manicured staff member in a crisp uniform, scanned the reservation list, her eyes briefly flicking up to meet Clara's before returning to the screen. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your name here," the receptionist said, her tone polite but condescending. "Perhaps there's been a mistake." Clara felt her heart skip a beat. "I'm Clara Thompson. My husband made the reservation for me," she explained, trying to keep her voice steady. The receptionist didn't respond immediately. She simply stared at the screen for a few long moments, clearly confused. "Thompson? Are you sure it's under that name?" Clara's stomach tightened. She had checked everything with Adam before coming. "Yes," she replied, trying to remain calm. "Under Adam Thompson." The receptionist's eyes flickered to the name again before she shook her head slowly. "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am. There's no reservation under that name." A cold wave of embarrassment flooded Clara's chest. She tried to explain, but the woman's polite but firm demeanor made it clear that no amount of explanation would help. Before Clara could say anything else, she heard a voice from behind her. "Is there a problem?" Clara turned and froze. Standing there, tall and composed, was Adam. He looked every bit the powerful, confident man he was. His eyes scanned the scene, instantly understanding the situation. And that was when Clara realized things were about to change. Adam's surprise arrival was not just a simple gesture. It was a reminder of the power and privilege that came with his presence, something no one could ignore. Clara felt a rush of relief when Adam's voice cut through the tension in the air. Her embarrassment was palpable, but as soon as he appeared, it seemed to melt away, replaced by a quiet strength. Adam walked toward her with purpose, his gaze locking onto the receptionist, who now appeared visibly uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson," the receptionist stammered, now clearly recognizing him. "There seems to have been an issue with the reservation system. We don't have anything under your name." Her tone shifted from condescending to apologetic in an instant. Adam didn't seem fazed. His expression remained calm, but there was an intensity in his eyes that suggested he wasn't about to let this slide. "I made the reservation personally," he said coolly, not raising his voice but letting the weight of his words hang in the air. "And I'd appreciate it if you could rectify this immediately." Clara stood slightly to the side, feeling an unfamiliar mix of emotions. Relief that Adam was here, yes, but also something deeper. She had never truly been on the receiving end of his powerful presence. She knew Adam was a man who didn't have to demand respect. It was just given to him. and it was clear that the moment he stepped in, the situation had changed. The receptionist hesitated for a moment, clearly trying to recover her composure. She turned to her computer screen, typing furiously as if trying to fix whatever mistake had been made. Adam waited, his gaze unwavering as he stood next to Clara, his presence wrapping around her like a protective shield. For the first time in a long while, Clara realized just how much she relied on Adam, how much of the world to her revolved around his influence. Clara had always been content to step back in their relationship, to let Adam take the lead, but today, something about this experience was making her feel smaller than she ever had before. The resort was a world she wasn't familiar with, and here, it seemed as though her modest clothes and simple demeanor made her invisible to the staff, who treated her as though she were out of place. "Everything's in order now, Mr. Thompson," the receptionist said, finally breaking the silence. Her voice was sweet but still edged with tension, as though she weren't sure how to handle the situation. She handed over a new key card, but her gaze kept flicking nervously between Clara and Adam. Adam took the key with a nod, his expression unchanged. "Thank you, and make sure this doesn't happen again." Clara could see the receptionist's discomfort, but Adam didn't seem to care. He was already moving, turning towards Clara with that same calm confidence she had come to know so well. The power he held, quiet, effortless, was something she had always admired. But today, in this moment, it was overwhelming. As they walked down the hallway toward their suite, Clara remained silent. She could feel Adam's presence beside her, his calm energy wrapping around her like a blanket. Despite the earlier tension, he seemed unaffected by what had just happened. And yet, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that she had been exposed, not just in front of the resort staff, but also in front of her husband. "You all right?" Adam asked, glancing at her with a soft smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Clara hesitated, then nodded, though the doubt lingered. "I'm fine," she said, though the words felt empty. Adam, sensing her hesitation, slowed his pace. He turned toward her and gently touched her arm. "You don't have to be fine, Clara. Not for me. Not ever." Clara met his gaze, and for the first time in a long while, she realized that Adam's power wasn't just in the way people reacted to him. It was in how he made her feel. He made her feel seen, even when the world around her tried to make her disappear. The suite was nothing short of breathtaking. As Adam opened the door, Clara stepped inside, her breath catching in her throat. The room was vast, elegantly decorated with soft, neutral tones that exuded understated luxury. There were floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the resort's private beach, the waves gently crashing against the shore in rhythmic harmony. Everything about the space screamed exclusivity, from the rich wood furnishings to the plush velvet seating arrangements. But despite the opulence surrounding her, Clara felt a tightness in her chest. She stood near the window, looking out at the horizon, her thoughts still swirling around the events from earlier, the rejection, the cool reception from the staff, and, most of all, the nagging feeling that she didn't truly belong in this world. She had come here to relax, to take a break from her usual life, but instead, she was faced with an uncomfortable truth. She had always felt like an outsider. Adam closed the door behind them and turned to Clara. He had already changed into comfortable clothes, dark jeans and a crisp shirt that still managed to look effortlessly stylish. His gaze softened as he watched her, sensing her unease. "Clara," he said gently, walking toward her, "I didn't mean for you to feel this way. I wanted this to be a special trip for you, not a reminder of how the world can sometimes make you feel invisible." Clara looked at him, her heart heavy. She knew Adam meant well, but the truth was that she had never been comfortable in settings like this. No matter how much she tried to convince herself otherwise, she didn't feel like she fit into these exclusive spaces. There was always something about her that felt too ordinary, too simple for a world filled with high-end luxuries and effortless wealth. "I don't want to feel like this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to feel like I'm out of place. I want to enjoy this with you, but what?" Adam asked, stepping closer to her. Clara hesitated. the weight of the words pressing on her. "But when people look at me, they don't see me. They see someone who doesn't belong, someone who doesn't fit into their world." Adam was silent for a moment, his eyes searching hers as if trying to understand the depth of her thoughts. He walked toward her, his expression softening, and gently cupped her face in his hands. "Clara, you belong everywhere you choose to be. You don't need to be defined by anyone else's idea of what you should be. You've always had everything you need within you. I've always seen it." Her chest tightened as she met his gaze. There was no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. Adam had always believed in her. Even when she had trouble believing in herself, he had always seen her strength, even when she felt invisible to the rest of the world. But now, in the midst of this luxurious setting, Clara felt more lost than ever. "I just feel like I'm pretending," Clara confessed, her voice trembling. "Like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not." Adam smiled, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. "You don't have to pretend to be anything. You are exactly who you need to be, and who you are is more than enough." Clara let his words sink in, feeling the weight of them wrap around her like a warm blanket. It wasn't about fitting into a world that didn't see her. It was about embracing who she was, who she always had been, and not letting anyone or anything make her feel less than enough. As Adam pulled her into a gentle embrace, Clara closed her eyes, letting the calmness of his presence wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt the pieces inside her falling into place. Maybe it wasn't the resort, the luxury, or the world that Adam had built that mattered. Maybe it was her. And for the first time in a long time, Clara truly believed it. The next morning, Clara woke to the soft hum of waves crashing against the shore. The sunlight filtered through the luxurious curtains of the suite, casting a golden glow over everything. She hadn't realized how exhausted she was until she woke up feeling refreshed, but there was still a lingering unease deep within her. Despite the comfort of the resort, the peacefulness of the room, and Adam's constant support, something inside Clara felt unsettled. She stretched and looked over at Adam, still sound asleep beside her, his face relaxed and free from the usual intensity he carried when he was awake. For a moment, she just watched him, thinking about everything they had been through, everything that had led them to this moment. Adam had always been the strong one, the one who took charge, the one who made things happen. But Clara had never truly questioned her place in his world until now. The feeling of being out of place hadn't entirely left her, and she knew she needed to address it. It wasn't just about the resort or the staff's dismissive behavior. It was about herself. The realization had come to her quietly, but with undeniable force. She had allowed herself to live in the shadow of Adam's life for too long, never fully stepping into her own. Clara stood up from the bed, trying not to disturb Adam, and made her way to the large window. She looked out over the beach, the expansive ocean stretching out as far as she could see. The horizon seemed to promise endless possibilities. But Clara knew that in order to embrace that, she had to face her own fears first. She wasn't just Adam's wife. She was Clara Thompson, a woman in her own right, with her own experiences, strengths, and desires. She had spent so much of her life living in the periphery, supporting Adam, supporting their life together, but never truly claiming her own space in the world. It was time for that to change. As she gazed out at the ocean, the realization hit her. This was her moment to break free from the invisible chains she had wrapped around herself. She didn't need to fit into a world that didn't understand her. She didn't need to apologize for who she was or the way she had chosen to live her life. She had the power to define herself, to stand tall and claim her own place in the world. When Adam stirred beside her, Clara turned to him, a newfound determination in her heart. He smiled at her, the warmth in his eyes, but she noticed the small shift in his expression. He could sense the change in her, too. "You're up early," Adam said, his voice still thick with sleep, but his gaze full of curiosity. Clara smiled softly, walking over to where he lay. "I've been thinking." Adam propped himself up on one elbow, his attention entirely focused on her. "What about?" She hesitated for a moment, then said, "About me." about who I am, about the life I've been living. I think I've spent too long hiding behind what I thought I was supposed to be." Adam's expression softened, his eyes studying her carefully, and for the first time, Clara felt like she could speak her truth without hesitation. "I don't want to hide anymore, Adam. I want to find my place, not just as your wife, but as myself." The room felt still for a moment, the air thick with the weight of her words. Then Adam reached out, taking her hand in his fingers warm against her skin. "You've always had that place," he said quietly. "I just think you're finally ready to see it." Clara nodded, a quiet sense of peace settling over her. She didn't need anyone's permission to be who she was. She had always been enough. She just had to believe it. The following day felt different. The crisp morning air outside the resort was filled with possibilities, and for the first time, Clara felt like she was truly experiencing the luxury surrounding her, not as a bystander, but as someone who belonged. It was a subtle shift in her perspective, but it was powerful nonetheless. She was no longer defined by the way others saw her. Today, she was carving out her own space. Clara had always been content to stay in the background, to let Adam lead. He had never asked her to stay silent, but she had often chosen to. He was the public figure, the powerful businessman whose name was known across the world, and she had been content, or so she thought, to remain the woman at his side. But now, as she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress and staring at the reflection that had once seemed distant, she realized how much of herself she had hidden away for so long. It wasn't just about the resort, the wealth, or the luxury around her. It was about reclaiming her own identity. For so long, she had lived in Adam's shadow, accepting that it was enough to simply be his wife. But now, she understood that there was more to her life than that. She had her own strength, her own purpose, and it was time for her to step into it. As she walked out onto the balcony, the sound of the ocean waves crashing below filled her ears. The view was breathtaking, the beach stretching out before her like a world waiting to be explored. But her gaze wasn't on the horizon. It was inward. She was finally starting to see herself clearly. Adam was sitting on the couch, his phone in hand as he scrolled through a few emails. He glanced up when she stepped into the room, his gaze instantly sharp and assessing. He had always been able to sense when something had changed in her, even if she hadn't said a word. "You look different," he said, his voice low, but there was an unmistakable softness in his tone. Clara smiled, a sense of peace settling within her. "I am different," she said, walking over to him and sitting down next to him. "I've realized I've been hiding for a long time." Adam put his phone down, his full attention now on her. "Hiding from what?" "Hiding from myself," she admitted, her voice steady but full of conviction. "From the woman I am, from the life I want to build for myself. I've spent so much time living in the background, in your shadow. I thought it was enough, but it's not. Not anymore." Adam's eyes softened, and he reached out, taking her hand in his. "Clara, you've never been in my shadow. You've always been more than that. I've just been waiting for you to see it." Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest as she looked into his eyes. She had always known that Adam loved her, that he supported her in everything she did. But now, she realized that his love wasn't just about lifting her up. It was about giving her the freedom to stand tall on her own. Adam didn't want her to be a reflection of him. He wanted her to be the woman she was meant to be, and that thought filled her with a sense of empowerment she had never felt before. "You're right," she whispered, her voice full of gratitude. "I've always had it within me. I just needed to believe it." Adam smiled, his eyes full of admiration. "And now you do." As Clara sat there, hand in hand with Adam, she knew that this was just the beginning of her journey. She had spent so long hiding from the world, but now she was ready to step into it. Not as Adam's wife, but as Clara Thompson, and that, she realized, was more than enough. The days at the resort drifted by, but Clara felt a sense of transformation within her. Every conversation, every glance from Adam, every quiet moment in the beautiful surroundings seemed to further solidify the shift she had begun. For the first time in years, she felt truly present. not just physically but mentally and emotionally. She wasn't just in the background anymore. She was here, fully alive in her own skin. On the final night of their stay, the resort hosted an exclusive gala, an elegant event that promised to be the highlight of the week. Adam had insisted that Clara join him, and though she had initially hesitated, something inside her stirred. This was a new beginning for her, and she couldn't hide away from it any longer. As she dressed for the event, Clara's nerves fluttered in her stomach. She had spent years avoiding this kind of attention, avoiding the spotlight that seemed to come with being married to a man like Adam. But tonight, she was stepping into it willingly. She wasn't just accompanying him to the gala as his wife, she was walking beside him as his equal, as someone who had finally come into her own. When she emerged from the bedroom, Adam stood waiting for her in the living room, his back to her, as he adjusted his cufflinks. But when he turned to look at her, his eyes widened slightly. An expression of genuine admiration flickered across his face. Clara had always known that Adam found her beautiful, but tonight she felt more than just beautiful. She felt empowered. "You look stunning," he said softly, his voice filled with awe. "I've never seen you like this before." Clara smiled, a quiet confidence radiating from her. "I feel different. I feel like me." Adam stepped forward, taking her hand and leading her toward the door. As they walked through the lobby, people turned to look at them, their gazes lingering on Clara longer than usual. But she no longer felt the weight of judgment. Instead, she walked with her head held high, her posture straight, her confidence glowing. She was no longer just the simple woman in the background. She was Clara Thompson, strong, capable, and ready to take on the world. At the gala, the room was alive with chatter, clinking glasses, and soft music. The guests, dressed in their finest attire, mingled effortlessly. But as Clara and Adam entered, the room seemed to hush for just a moment. Clara could feel the eyes on them, but this time, it didn't faze her. Adam led her through the crowd with ease, greeting old friends and introducing Clara as his partner in every sense of the word. For the first time in years, Clara felt seen in a way that wasn't defined by her connection to Adam. She wasn't just the woman beside the powerful billionaire. She was a presence all her own. She spoke to people, laughed with them, and felt the joy of being part of a conversation where she was valued for her own thoughts, her own voice. As the evening wore on, Adam pulled her aside to a quiet corner of the terrace. The view of the ocean was breathtaking, the moonlight shimmering on the water's surface. He took her hand and looked into her eyes with pride. "I'm proud of you, Clara," he said softly. "You've always been so much more than you let yourself believe. And now, the world is finally seeing that." Clara smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude and love. "Thank you, Adam, for everything." As they stood together, overlooking the world that had once felt so foreign to her, Clara realized that she no longer needed to hide. She had found her place, not just beside Adam, but in her own world, as herself. The journey she had begun in the spa, the conversations with Adam, and the quiet moments of self-discovery had led her to this point, and she was ready for whatever came next. With Adam by her side, Clara knew that the world was hers to conquer, and she was no longer afraid to claim it.